close. Okay, got that. And then, okay, cool. Yeah, it's so funny. Like, as soon as I got off the live, normally, like, I click off or turn off the video here on Instagram, and then I have to click off the video on the eCam because it's running it through to YouTube and Facebook. And it's funny because, as you know, normally whenever I end a video on Instagram, some like suggestions will come up for videos, other videos to watch, and then it gives you like the option of like saving your video or whatever. And this girl, like big breasted girl, came up and she's like making this funny face, and I'm like, oh my god, what the hell is that? And I guess she's trying to like fit her bra and she's making fun of herself. But I was like, oh my god, they're gonna think I'm straight with that girl's picture coming up there. So that was so hysterical. I was like, ooh, girl, that's a risque picture. All right, guys, it's study group time. So we are reading Conversations with God by Neale Donald Walsch. And last week I told y'all a bit about the book and what the guy, Neale Donald Walsch, and what happened and his story, etc. So we're continuing our study group. We're continuing to read the book as well. So we're going to do book 1, and then I'm going to take a break and then read another book, and then come back, read book 2, take a break, come back and read book 3. But I'm going to read through this, and I'm going to stop here and there to talk about some of the things that they discuss or that they talk about in the book. So it's really interesting. It's one of my favorite books of all time, actually. I love this book. And every time I read it, I'm like, oh, I don't remember that. So it's almost like every time you read it, there's like something new that shows up as well. For those of you who are tuning in, wanting readings, I'm sorry, guys, but that was last hour. So if you want to ask me questions about the content of the book and the material, I'm definitely open to that. So feel free to ask questions, and I will go through before I get off to answer some of them. Okay. All right. So let's go over here. So basically the book it's Neale. He's having conversations with God, essentially. He's channeling this conversation. So he's been waking up in the middle of the night, having these conversations and writing everything down. And so he basically asks God questions, and then God answers the question. And it's usually pretty interesting, actually. I love it. All right, so I'm going to start, and then I'll stop when I want to discuss or acknowledge something. Does that mean, and this is Neale, does that mean I cannot ask for anything I want? Are you saying that praying you ask, nor can you have anything you want? This is because your very request is a statement of lack, and you're saying you want a thing only works to produce that precise experience, wanting in reality. The correct prayer is therefore never a prayer of supplication, but a prayer of gratitude. When you thank God in advance for that which you choose to experience in your reality, you in effect acknowledge that it is there. In effect, thankfulness is thus the most powerful statement to God, an affirmation that even before you ask, I have answered, therefore never supplicate, appreciate. Neale, but what if I am grateful to God in advance for something and it never shows up? That could lead to disillusionment and bitterness. God, gratitude cannot be used as a tool with which to manipulate God, a device with which to fool the universe. You cannot lie to yourself. Your mind knows the truth of your thoughts. If you are saying thank you, God, for such and such, all the while being very clear that it isn't there in your present reality, you can't expect God to be less clear than you, and so produce it for you. God knows what you know, and what you know is what appears as your reality. Neale, but how then can I be truly grateful for something I know is not there? God, faith. If you have but the faith of a mustard seed, you shall move mountains. You come to know it is there because I said it is there. Because I said that. Even before you ask, I shall have answered. Because I said and have said to you in every conceivable way, through every teacher you can name, that whatsoever you shall choose, choosing it in my name, so shall it be. Neil, yet so many people say that their prayers have gone unanswered. God, no prayer, and a prayer is nothing more than a fervent statement of what is, so goes unanswered. Every prayer, every thought, every statement, every feeling, every feeling is creative to the degree that it is fervently held as truth. To that degree will it be made manifest in your experience. When it is said that a prayer has not been answered, what has in actuality happened is that the most fervently held thought, word, or feeling has become operative. Yet what you must know, and here is the secret, is that always it is the thought behind the thought, what might be called a sponsoring thought, that is the controlling thought. If therefore you beg and supplicate, there seems a much smaller chance that you will experience what you think you are choosing, because the sponsoring thought behind every supplication is that you do not have now what you wish. That sponsoring thought becomes your reality. The only sponsoring thought which could override this thought is the thought held in faith that God will grant whatever is asked, without fail. Some people have such faith, but very few. The process of prayer becomes much easier when, rather than having to believe that God will always say yes to every request, one understands intuitively that the request itself is not necessary. Then the prayer is a prayer of thanksgiving. It is not a request at all, but a statement of gratitude for what is so. This is so important because this goes into a lot of different experiences and a lot of different things that we as people do not realize when it comes to what we're producing, what we're creating in this world. You know, Beyonce didn't become the singer she did because she was praying every night, God, make her a star or make her a world-renowned singer. She just showed up and did the work as much as she could, and she appreciated everything that was given or everything that was offered along the way, which is a prayer of thanksgiving. Now, granted, she may have prayed for opportunities and so forth, but she wasn't going to sit around and wait for these opportunities to come to her. She went out and pushed herself to get to where she needed to get to. Same thing. Selena did the same thing. You see the movie of Selena. She didn't just sit around on her ass and hope to be a singer one day and hope that God was going to deliver this. They busted their asses to get to where they got to. And so I'm pretty sure she was, because they're Catholics. So I'm pretty sure that they definitely, of course, dealt with church, went to church, and she was grateful, etc. But they did the work. They put in the effort and the work into it. They just didn't hope that something was going to happen for them. So if I wonder what would have happened if she went to every concert and every event and just believed in her heart that she was awful, that she was the worst singer alive, and that she would never get anywhere with it. I wonder if that's what was her supporting thought, or if she actually was like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to get through it or whatever. I'm pretty sure that was her supporting thought, because someone that has that kind of mindset isn't going to get anywhere with it. So when those of you who desire a relationship, desire love, desire, a life partnership, etc., those of you who desire these things, you might be sitting in your room, or you might be crying at night. You might be begging God, please, please end my misery. Send me the perfect partner. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, because you need to take accountability for what you're bringing and aligning yourself to. If you are praying to God or asking God, God, please bring me a perfect partner who has this and this and this. They can do this. They can do this for me. They can do that for me. They're going to make me feel this way. But in your mind, every experience you had did not give you that. And in fact, all that you've experienced regarding males or regarding these kinds of people were negative experiences, then that's the sponsoring thought. So the sponsoring thought is, I was raised by a man who abused me. And so as I get older, I'm going to pray for someone who isn't going to abuse me, or someone's going to treat me right. But all I think about is how badly I was treated, and I feel still like a victim, or I'm still attached to that trauma. So when I go out and try to date people, even though I may be hoping and begging for someone who is going to be an ideal, everything that is existing within me is supporting these old patterns and energy, and that is the sponsoring thought. This is why I tell people, it can't just be you asking for something. You have to pull your own weight. You have to pay your dues. So if you intend for a good relationship, Are you offering someone a good relationship? Are you able to be a good partner in a relationship? If you're not able to do any of that stuff, forget it. Then you don't deserve a good relationship because you're not even giving it out. You're not even offering that which you are asking for. But also what is being said here is that when we ask for something, we in the moment are asking because we know or are acknowledging that it doesn't exist or that we don't have it. That is the sponsoring thought. It doesn't exist or we don't have it. Instead, what can you do that can give you the experience that can bring you as close to that as possible? Meaning, what can you give yourself that makes you feel as if it does exist and you have had a taste of it and you're grateful for that? What can you do to give you the closest thing to it? Because if you practice that and you make that a regular thing, that becomes a sponsoring thought. And then even if you're asking for something, but you're also feeling it quite often, you're lining more up with it materializing or showing up in your world. Those of us, and I say us because this has been my practice, those of us who just know what we are going to do, or we know what is coming our way, or we just know, not because I'm psychically seeing it, but because I believe in the absolute faith of I have absolute faith in the universe for things to be how they're going to need to be, and I trust that there will be things coming my way. Because of this, all the work that I do is also supporting that. In other words, here's an example. So I had a client and she had been tapped for a few reality shows, but she hadn't been signed on with a network. And so she was wondering what she could do to be able to move this ahead, or if there was going to be an opportunity. And I'm like, why are you waiting for someone to see your value and your worth? Why are you waiting for someone to see what you have to offer? Why not just produce something yourself? If you can, make something yourself and then put it out there and let that be a demo of what you can do. And so that's exactly what she did. And she actually did amazing. Like her pilots or her it was really good. I was like, wow, super impressed. But that is now something that is under her belt. And she can say that, I've been part of a series, and you can say that's the closest thing to the reality of a network coming to get her. That's the closest thing she could achieve up to that point. And so that's what she did. She gave herself that experience. And so that may produce other opportunities for her and align her with other things as well. So that's how it works. It's you gotta regulate the sponsoring thought through intent, through action. And then once the sponsoring thought settles into your vibration, which usually takes 30 to 90 days, then you'll start to see something showing up in your physical world. But it has to start within you, not without you. So if you're looking for something, stop looking and find it within yourself, the closest that you can to it being a reality. Find it within yourself through your state of feelings, through your mindset, through your pretend work, and then it will start to show up in one way or another in the outside world. Okay? When you say that a prayer is a statement of what is so, are you saying that God does nothing, that everything which happens after a prayer is a result of the prayer's actions? God, if you believe that God is some omnipotent being who hears all prayers, says yes to some, no to others, and maybe, but not now, to the rest, you are mistaken. But by what rule of thumb would God decide? If you believe that God is the creator and decider of all things in your life, you are mistaken. God is the observer, not the creator. And God stands ready to assist you in living your life, but not in the way you might expect. It is not God's function to create or uncreate the circumstances or conditions of your life. God created in likeness of God. You have created the rest through the power God has given you. God created the process of life and life itself as you know it. Yet God gave you free choice to do with life as you will, in the sense your will for you is God's will for you. You are living your life the way you are living your life, and I have no preference in the matter. This is the grand illusion in which you have engaged, that God cares one way or the other what you do. I do not care what you do, and that is hard for you to hear. Yet do you care what your children do when you send them out to play? Is it a matter of consequence to you whether they play tag or hide and seek or pretend? No, it is not, because you know they are perfectly safe. You have placed them in an environment which you consider friendly and very okay. Of course, you will always hope that they do not hurt themselves, and if they do, you will be right there to help them, heal them, allow them to feel safe again, to be happy again, to go and play again another day. But whether they choose hide and seek or pretend will not matter to you the next day either. You will tell them, of course, which games are dangerous to play, but you cannot stop your children from doing dangerous things. Not always, not forever, not in every moment from now until death. It is the wise parent who knows this, yet the parent never stops caring about the outcome. It is this dichotomy, not caring deeply about the process, but caring deeply about the result, that comes close to describing the dichotomy of God. Yet God, in a sense, does not even care about the outcome, not the ultimate outcome. This is because the ultimate outcome is assured. And this is the second great illusion of man, that the outcome of life is in doubt. It is this doubt about ultimate outcome that has created your greatest enemy, which is fear. For if you doubt outcome, then you must doubt Creator. You must doubt God. And if you doubt God, you must live in fear and guilt all your life. If you doubt God's intentions and God's ability to produce this ultimate result, then how can you ever relax? How can you ever truly find peace? Yet God has full power to match intentions with results. You cannot and will not believe in this, even though you claim that God is all-powerful. And so you have to create in your imagination a power equal to God, in order that you may find a way for God's will to be thwarted. And so you have created your mythology, the being you call devil. You have even imagined a God at war with this being, thinking that God solves problems the way you do. Finally, you have actually imagined that God could lose this war. All of this violates everything you say you know about God. But this doesn't matter. You live your illusion and thus feel your fear all out of your decision to doubt God. But what if you made a new decision? What then would be the result? I tell you this: you would live as the Buddha did, as Jesus did, as did every saint you have ever idolized. Yet, as with most of those saints, people would not understand you. And when you try to explain your sense of peace, your joy in life, your inner ecstasy, they would listen to your words but not hear them. They would try to repeat your words but would add to them. They would wonder how you could have what they cannot find, and then they would grow jealous. Soon jealousy would turn to rage, and in their anger they would try to convince you that it is you who do not understand God. And if they were unsuccessful at tearing you from your joy, they would seek to harm you. So enormous would be their rage. And when you told them it does not matter, that even death cannot interrupt your joy nor change your truth, they would surely kill you. Then, when they saw the peace with which you accepted death, they would call you saint and love you again. For it is the nature of people to love, then destroy, then love again, that which they value most. So many people struggle with the idea of God because they automatically turn God into a human being or a person that is fallible. But when you think of the idea or the illusion, the idea or the thought of God, it is not anything that you can even measure up to because it is God. So why would you even think that you could understand this grand beingness? What makes you think you could even assume that kind of perspective? Couldn't. We're not designed that way. We're not designed to encompass that kind of grandness. We're designed to expand and to express the miracle of creation. That's what we are. We are the expression of source. God created us so that we may go forward and create in honor of God through the process of being. And so God is a witness. God is the experience that exists within all of that. God is the awareness, the consciousness that is a part of all of it. God is not controlling everything. God is allowing everything. There's a difference. And because God is the greatest witness, we are, in essence, the greatest creator that we know, because we are the extension, we are the physical expression of source form of God. So people always want to humanize God. They always want to turn God into this this person like ourselves, who's a grumpy old man who has issues, has problems, whatever. No, that's not God at all. You misunderstood what God actually is. I don't like to think of God as a person, period. I don't think of God as a person. I think of God as a force, as a beingness, not a being. So I think of God more as a consciousness, a point of awareness of all things, a kind of grandest version of the grandest idea that I've ever had, the grandest being of the grandest beings that exist. That's where I put it. So I don't like to think of God as a person, because people get really confused and they start to come up with all kinds of ideas for who God is and what God is. So that gets a bit questionable. So it's just like with children, when you have a child, parents care about their children. They care that they go forward, that they're successful, that they achieve things that are going to allow them to succeed. But most parents are not controlling their children. Most parents are not running their children's lives for them. Most healthy parents, if you don't fit in that, you're not a healthy parent, because you shouldn't be controlling your child's life unless they need you to do so. So it comes down to that. So it is one of those things where a loving parent who has faith in the creation allows the creation to be. So when you raise your child and your child is an adult and they have the capacity to go forward and to produce or to create in at that age, you don't go and do it for them. You let them go on and so forth. And some parents can't control their children no matter what they do. They can't get them to do anything. And some parents, they still affect a child's future because the child wants to do something to make the parent happy. That's what religion is. Religion is basically like a conditioning tool that teaches people how to try to make their parent, their godparent, God, happy. But God does not exist within the emotional spectrum of human reality. God is not an emotion. And a lot of people think that, God gets angry, or God's mad at me, or God's punishing me, or whatever. Then you obviously have a really skewed mindset or idea of what God is, because that's not God. So this is just saying that God has produced, created, and given free will. Say, go on, do whatever you want. I'm here to support you. I'm here to honor that which you choose. And that is exactly what we get. It's just why you can pray to God all day to change your problems, but you created those problems most likely, and so you can't ask for a bailout. Neil, but why? Why do we do that? But why? Why do we do that? God, all human actions are motivated at their deepest level by one of two emotions, fear or love. In truth, there are only two emotions, only two words in the language of the soul. These are the opposite ends of the great polarity which I created when I produced the universe and your world as you know it today. There are the 2 points, the alpha and the omega, which allow the system you call relativity to be. Without these 2 points, without these two ideas about things, no other idea could exist. Every human thought, Every human action is based in either love or fear. There is no other human motivation, and all other ideas are but derivatives of these two. They are simply different versions, different twists on the same theme. Think on this deeply, and you will see that it is true. This is what I have called the sponsoring thought. It is either a thought of love or fear. This is the thought behind the thought behind the thought. It is the first thought. It is prime force. It is the raw energy that drives the engine of human experience. And here is how human behavior produces repeat experience after repeat experience. It is why humans love, then destroy, then love again. Always there is the swing from one emotion to the other. Love sponsors fear, sponsors love, sponsors fear. And the reason is found in the first lie, the lie which you hold as the truth about God. That God cannot be trusted, that God's love cannot be depended upon, that God's acceptance of you is conditional, that the ultimate outcome is thus in doubt. For if you cannot depend on God's love to always be there, on whose love can you depend? If God retreats and withdraws when you do not perform properly, will not mere mortals also? And so it is that in the moment you pledge your highest love, you greet your greatest fear. For the first thing you worry about after saying I love you is whether you'll hear it back. And if you hear it back, then you begin immediately to worry that the love you have just found you will lose. And so all action becomes a reaction, defense against loss, even as you seek to defend yourself against the loss of God. Yet, if you knew who you are, that you are the most magnificent, the most remarkable, the most splendid being God has ever created, you would never fear. For who could reject such wondrous magnificence? Not even God could find fault in such a being. But you do not know who you are, and you think you are a great deal less. And where did you get the idea of how much less than magnificent you are? From the only people whose word you would take on everything, from your mother and your father. These are the people who love you the most. Why would they lie to you? Yet have they not told you that you are too much of this, not enough of that? Have they not reminded you that you are to be seen and not heard? Have they not scolded you in some of the moments of your greatest exuberance? And did they not encourage you to set aside some of your wildest imagining? These are the messages you've received, and though they do not meet the criteria and are thus not messages from God, they might as well have been, for they have come from the gods of your universe surely enough. If it was your parents who taught you that love is conditional. You have felt their conditions many times, and that is the experience you take into your own love relationships. It is also the experience you bring to me. From this experience, you draw your conclusions about me. Within this framework, you speak your truth. God is a loving God, you say, but if you break his commandments, he will punish you with eternal banishment and everlasting damnation. For have you not experienced the banishment of your own parents? Do you not know the pain of their damnation? How then could you imagine it to be any different with me? You have forgotten what it was like to be loved without condition. You do not remember the experience of the love of God, and so you try to imagine what God's love must be like, based on what you see of love in the world. You have projected the role of parent onto God, and have thus come up with a God who judges and rewards or punishes, based on how good he feels about what you've been up to. But this is a simplistic view of God, based on your mythology. It has nothing to do with who I am. Having thus created an entire thought system about God based on human experience rather than spiritual truths, you then create an entire reality around love. It is a fear-based reality rooted in the idea of a fearful, vengeful God. Its sponsoring thought is wrong, but to deny that thought would be to disrupt your whole theology. And though the new theology which would replace it would truly be your salvation, you cannot accept it because the idea of a God who is not to be feared, who will not judge, and who has not caused to punish is simply too magnificent to be embraced within even your grandest notion of who and what God is. This fear-based reality dominates your experience of love. Indeed, actually creates it. For not only, I'm trying to get this page right. For not only do you see yourself receiving love, which is conditional, you also watch yourself giving it in the same way. And even while you withhold and retreat and set your conditions, a part of you knows this is not what love really is. Still, you seem powerless to change the way you dispense it. You've learned the hard way. You tell yourself, and you'll be damned if you're going to leave yourself vulnerable again. Yet the truth is, you'll be damned if you don't. By your own mistaken thoughts about love, do you damn yourself never to experience it purely. For so too do you damn yourself never to know me as I really am. Until you do, for you shall not be able to deny me forever, and the moment will come for our reconciliation. Every action taken by human beings is based in love or fear, not simply those dealings with relationship. Decisions affecting business, industry, politics, religion, the education of your young, the social agenda of your nations, the economic goals of your society, choices involving war, peace, attack, defense, aggression, submission, determinations to covet or give away, to save or to share, to unite or to divide. Every single free choice you ever undertake arises out of one of the only two possible thoughts there are, a thought of love or a thought of fear. Fear is the energy which contracts, closes down, draws in, runs, hides, hoards, harms. Love is the energy which expands, opens up, sends out, stays, reveals, shares, heals. Fear wraps our bodies in clothing. Love allows us to stand naked. Fear clings to and clutches all that we have. Love gives all that we have away. Fear holds close. Love holds dear. Fear grasps. Love lets go. Fear rankles. Love soothes. Fear attacks. Love amends. Every human thought, word, or deed is based in one emotion or the other. You have no choice about this because there is nothing else from which to choose, but you have free choice about which of these to select. So that's pretty cool. So it does come down to that. It comes down to the idea of, are we going to produce out of a state of lack, which is fear, or are we going to produce out of a state of prosperity or love or joy? And this is, for me as a business owner, because I have this is my business, this really helped me because whenever I did something in my business, because I was like, oh, I'm trying to increase my clientele base, or I'm trying to make more money, or I'm trying to make myself look a certain way. Like whenever I made a decision like that, it was from a place of lack or fear. Because as business owners, as people who are just trying to make it in life, as people who are trying to build like a self-sustaining financial situation where we don't have to depend on a company or someone else for sustenance, we are, as a business owner, most business owners do come into it with a state of fear. Because the fear is, if I don't succeed, that's it. That's the end of this dream. If I don't produce this much, that's it. That's the end of it. If I'm not this famous or known, that's it. That's the end of it. If I'm not able to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's all fear-based mindset. Over time, I realized that whenever I thought about my business or I thought about what I did from a fear-based mindset, it wouldn't take very long for things to get a little shaky with the business as far as like new clients coming in, or for things to get a little shaky with the types of clients I was bringing in, where they were more people who were basically pain in the asses, and there were a little bit of drama. So that became a trend when I would approach my business and what I did out of a place of fear. Today is a very different story. I try to approach everything I do from business from a state of love or from a state of appreciation. This is why I do the free lives, because I appreciate all of us. I appreciate all of you. I love all of you. You are God to me. So I appreciate you. So I am giving and offering love through the process of doing readings for people for free and not charging, not expecting anything back. So just that's why I do that. So it's a mindset of love. When I am dealing with a client and I am really trying to get to the root of an issue, where I'm offering advice and so forth, it's coming from a place of love. When I feel like, and there have been times in the beginning stages of my business, there would be times where I would have people booking, and then there would be a little bit of a drop in bookings for one reason or another. Either the holidays, there was a drop in bookings, or during August, there's a drop in bookings because people are going back to school or spending money on their kids. Whenever I would be around those time frames, there would be a drop automatically, because that's usually the trend every year. And I would get into a state of lack. It automatically brought up within me fear, like, oh my God, what if I can't, make the rent, or what if I can't do this or can't do that, right? But whenever I've gotten into that mindset, or I got into a place of fear around something, which usually finances or money have a lot to do with that, I would just do something that represented expansion and not contraction. Fear contracts, like God has said. Love expands. Creation is in expansion, so it's a form of love. So what can I expand, or what can I expand out into from a place of love that serves my business, or that allows me to connect with that energy in my business? And so I would go and I would produce a video for people explaining something, or I'd go and I'd get on and, talk to people for a bit and try to give them advice or whatever. Or I would go and study a spiritual book and use it as a model to help people understand certain things. So I would do something that allowed me to expand, that was not keeping me focused on the things I was afraid of. I would focus on the things that gave me joy, gave me a sense of love. And for me, doing anything for anybody is a gesture of love for me. So that's what I would do. So for those of you who are business owners, if you are afraid, or if you're going into a state of lack, coming from a place of lack as well, take on a project or do something for the business that allows you to feel expanded out. It allows you to feel from a place of love, a place of faith. Even if it doesn't feel authentic at first, because you might be so conditioned to thinking from a place of lack and worry, still practice it. Still force yourself. Because whenever I get nervous or anxious about something, my stomach gets in the knots, and I can feel it. And so whenever I think more about those things that are causing me to worry, it gets worse in my stomach, and it's just like almost like I get, makes me sick to my stomach. So for me, the minute I start realizing that I'm feeling this way, I'm like, oh, I'm going into a contracting mode. This is a state of fear. I'm coming from a place of lack. I need to reverse it. So what I do is I will actually create a project or create something I can do for work that allows me to feel a sense of appreciation and makes me feel like I've completed something, or I've achieved something for my work. So again, putting out a post or doing this or doing that helps me. Those little things help me. And when you do a lot of those little things that allow you to expand, expansion becomes your norm, and faith becomes a byproduct of that. I don't have to pretend to have faith or force myself to have faith, because faith for me is very natural, because I know I'm aligned with the work that God would have me do. And so for me, I just trust in the process and I do it. I just do it. And having faith is like a byproduct. I don't have to try to have it. It's just there. So that's what tends to happen when you are coming from a place of love and expansion, and not from a place of fear and contraction. And that's what they're talking about. So we have a lot of control in our lives. We have a lot of control over many things that we experience. And what we do not always understand is that we have been producing that experience weeks, days, months in advance. What I am thinking today is probably going to be something that shows up in my life a year from now or whatnot, because I have noticed these patterns. When I'm going through a period of something or I'm struggling through something, I notice that it brings into my life something that is going to have a similar energy to it. But it may be a few weeks or a few months down the road. This is why it's so important to be focused on the now, because what we focus on now, what we produce now, what we line up with now is going to help us to pave the future in the same way, through the same type of emotional expression, through the same kind of energy. So if I'm focused on experiencing love right now, here's an example. So in the mornings when I go walking, I don't just go walking, and I listen to music, right? I listen to like a song or music that makes me feel really good. But I'll listen to something that feels very empowering, and then I will go for my walk. And what I envision that the first thing I envision is I want to feel love, or I want to experience love. So sometimes one of the visuals that I'll use is I'll pretend that these angel wings open up from the back of my back and they spread out like as big as I can make them. And so then I envision that the entire universe is just energy, and that all this energy starts to like coalesce, and then it starts to produce all these hearts, and all these hearts come towards me, and they start to fill me up, or start to come within me. So as I begin to see that, or I begin to visualize that, immediately I recognize that I am asking for love, because this is something that I do all the time. I realize, oh wait, I'm asking for love. I don't need to ask for love. It's always there. I need to give it. I need to offer it. So instead, I reverse the flow. And then what I end up doing instead is I end up increasing my own love, and I increase my own heart, and I pretend my heart grows into this massive like energy field. And then I envision that I am the giver of love on behalf of God. And then I like immediately and I'm listening to music as I'm doing this. So I'm hearing the music, and when I hit those moments or those peaks in the song, it like blasts out, and I send out a wave of love into the world. And I'm like, I love you. I'm here to serve. I will do my very best. And so I envision that. And when I do that, it takes practice, because you have to do it on a regular basis. But when you do that, it can reverse your fear and lack state into a state of love and expression and expansion and creation. Works really well for me, and I use it all the time, because it helps to remind me that I'm not here to collect love. I'm not here to get people to love me. I'm not here to get anything from the world or the universe. I'm here to give it. I'm here to expand it. I'm here to honor the creation. And that's what I focus on. And when you're coming from that mindset, it is from a place of love and from a place of connection with all things. And when you practice that kind of energy work, it really does allow you to feel the connection with other people. Now, granted, I don't feel this way every single day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This takes work. This takes me intentionally wanting and choosing that. But every day that I choose it and I act from this place, it allows me to create more love in this world. It allows me to help others. And I end up at some point down the road, I end up receiving a surge of love back in some way, which is just the universe, which is this God reflecting back to me. Hey, this is what you sent out. You can experience this from the opposite side of receiving it. And it's not because I have asked for it, it's just because I've sent it out, and the universe is bouncing back what I put out. And that's how that works. So it's not always easy to do that, especially with situations that are very painful, with people that are very trivial or challenging to feel love for. And so I don't try to focus it on one particular person. I actually never focus it on one particular person other than when I'm angry at someone. But I focus it on like the entire world. When I'm angry at someone, or when I feel very pained by an individual or person, I know that I'm probably won't be able to change the situation or change that person or force them to see what is going on or what maybe they've done. So, and at the same time, I've probably looked at myself and searched within myself, what could I have done differently? What could I have done to have addressed this differently, or dealt with this differently, or reduced the amount of suffering that was created by this exchange with this individual? And so at some point, I come to the realization that they are also God. It doesn't matter whether I'm having issues with them or not. It doesn't matter whether I'm arguing with this person or, whatever. They are an expression of God. And so I have to honor that, and I have to see the deeper meaning in that exchange. So to help myself move past the pain and the trauma, or to get into healing, I actually send that person love. I don't always do that because that takes like a really concerted effort, but I do it often enough, and I do it and not only, I don't really have a lot of people that I don't like, so that makes it easy when you don't have a lot of people that you don't like, and most of the people in my life are great. I have nothing to say other than I love them. Even the people who get on my nerves. Doesn't matter. So there aren't a lot of people in my life that I do not like or could say I hate. Now, I have used that word from time to time when I'm really angry or I'm really upset. But at the end of the day, I still realize that this whole thing is a spiritual experience we're all going through. We are getting from this what we need. And so I have to acknowledge that that's what this is ultimately at the end of the day. Am I going to let this kind of fester and root in me as if it is a reality and that is who this person really is? Or am I going to look past it and see the love and the being that this person really is and what this all really serves and what this does? So if I can do that, then I can send love, which I've done that a few times in my life. Whenever I've had my heart broken, I've just sent the person love. And whenever I feel the pain of that heartbreak, I just send them love in that moment. And after some time, I don't feel the pain anymore. It's helped me, even if the person did nothing different and they sustain themselves the same way, I still send them love. So, all right, guys, I love you all. Thanks for tuning in to our study group. I will be back next week. Same time, same place, and I will see you all then. Actually, no, you know what? I'm supposed to look and see what questions you'll have. Like, I'm about to skip over the question part. What am I doing, Ferny? What are you doing? So let's go over this here, because I was about to hang up on y'all. The Jennifer McKevitt. This is Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh. Let's see, I am that I am. Hello, God is consciousness and the whole universe is consciousness. We as people is growing in consciousness through evolution. And we are growing, we also can perform things through our consciousness, God-like things. Oh yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Let's see. Thank you, Svetlana. Thank you, Elizabeth. Let's see. Okay, all right. So the rest of these are personal questions. So let me go over here to Instagrams. See if y'all have any questions regarding the material about the book. So let's see. Grace GTL. She has a good question. She says, could you give us an example of a prayer of gratitude? How does one develop the faith of a mustard seed? So you have to understand gratitude and how it really feels. And, people, there's a lot of LOAers out there, law of attraction folks, where, they say, you should just, have a gratitude journal and then everything you're grateful for, you're going to materialize. And that's not true. Because you actually have to care about the thing that you enjoy. You have to have some sort of connection to it. But the more intense of a connection you have to something, it can get tricky because you can actually push it away from yourself or you can bring it closer. If you care a lot about a thing, whether it's an experience, whether it's a title, whether it's a situation, if you care a lot about it, but you're not sitting around or waiting for some miracle to happen to produce it for you, and instead you're like, I care about that, and I'm going to do everything within my power to move in that direction or to work towards that, as long as you fulfill your commitment to that thing, God is going to work with you on it. You're going to get back up. And the backup you get may not necessarily have that thing show up in exactly the same way you thought it would, but there's going to be a lot there that you will be able to have or experience that will fulfill the desire. Because we as human beings, we're designed to have desires. Desires are the formula for expansion, for creation. So the only way to expand out is to desire something more. And so as forms of God in physical form, we expand outward. So we're always desiring for something. But but what you desire doesn't necessarily have to be things. What you desire can be an experience, can be a scenario, going through something that will help you understand some things. I mean, desire can be based around a lot of things. So we never stop desiring. In physical form, we just always desire something. Even people who train people to not have desire, there's still desire there. They're desiring to not have desire. So it's what God says, like, we can't uncreate. We can only continue to create. So what I say to people when it comes to like having an example of a prayer of gratitude is, when I used to come here to Santa Fe on vacation and the places we would visit, there was a sense of awe and just like, oh, I love it. I love this. I love this. I don't want to go back to Houston, or I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back. And it was that feeling of, I love this. I don't want to experience this. I want to continue to experience this. So what I chose to do with that was I created an affirmation that I wasn't just desiring more of this and hating this other thing. Instead, I was going to embrace the experience I had, ignore the desiring of it, and acknowledge it as if it was already present and a thing that was permanent in my life. So even though my vacations would end and I'd end up going back to Houston, I would give myself the closest thing to the experience I could give myself to help me to feel the way I would feel when I would come here. And so that feeling of like, oh my God, I love it here, I would try to reproduce that same feeling in every opportunity that I got back in Houston. And so I did things to remind myself. I created, I took a picture back once when I was here traveling. We were here, I took a walk down the trails and I snapped a picture on the trails and I printed it out, put it in front of my treadmill at home. So every time I would be on the treadmill, I would put on my earbuds and I would listen to the music I would listen to when I was here. And every time I was here running or jogging and listening to that music and feeling so grateful that I was able to be here, I would try to reproduce that in my mind as a experience while I was on the treadmill. So to reproduce it. So I would try to reproduce it as closely as I could and just make myself think it was real as closely as I could. And I did it quite regularly. The area that I live in is pretty big. It's a big neighborhood. I think there's like 6,000 plus residents in my neighborhood. And we had been looking for a house here, a property here, and just to rent. And so we'd been looking. Nothing was ever coming up online. Finally, my partner found this place on Craigslist, which is, I had never even considered Craigslist because I always looking at like all the rental things online. And I was like, that's it. That's the one. I'm going to go with it. And we found it like a week or two before I was supposed to move because we literally had no place that we were going to be moving to. I was just prepared. I had boxed everything up. I had, I knew I was moving. I had faith I was moving. I was going to move no matter what. Even if I didn't have the perfect house, I was going to show up and rent an apartment, even if it wasn't an apartment that I wanted. It didn't matter. I was just going to move. And so when we found this place, I went ahead, got it, rented it out, and then when we got to the house, the first time I went jogging, I realized that the spot that I took the first picture at when I came to visit was like within 100 feet of like where our house is at. So not that far from here. It's like within some feet. So we literally, not only did we end up in the area we wanted to live in, I ended up being able to walk that same spot in the trail every single day. And I took a picture of it the first time I went jogging, was like, oh my God, this is the spot I took the picture at. Though that was not my intention to be in the same spot. I just reproduced the feeling for myself of being here, and I ended up having exactly that which I desired. So, but I would reproduce that in Houston, and I would be grateful, feeling the gratitude of oh my God, I love this so much. And so that's a prayer of gratitude. So it isn't so much words, because words mean nothing if there's no feeling or no visual to go along with it. That is a prayer of gratitude, because you're grateful for something, you're experiencing something that you feel fully. If you try to like have that and do that like every 30 minutes because you're trying to like, manifest something, not going to work, because you're only going to do it a couple of times before the feeling just kind of like you just get over it. You go over it. You have to do it enough that it becomes a regular practice, but not a thing that you're doing like by like clockwork every single like few moments or every single day, because you might kill the energy of experiencing that awe, and you don't want to do that. You always want to feel awe, which is why I would always change up my songs, because every time I change up my songs, I'm the kind of person where when I listen to a song I get chills sometimes depending on the song. That's what I would do. I would use the music to help me feel that sense of and feel those chills, and then I would take myself back to this place, to this moment, and have that experience again. So that's a prayer of gratitude. Gracie has another question. When a child creator is struggling, how does God assist while also just being a witness? So you asked for answers, you asked for clarity, you asked for guidance, and you made that choice when you began to look for that opportunity or for that thing yourself online. And you're here now listening to me, and I am also a representation of God. I am God here for you. And so God is the support to the desire and also the reinforcer of the request. And so you've requested clarity, you've requested to understand this process, and here I am explaining it and going through material that helps us to understand it. So God is the witness experiencing this connection that we currently have in this moment at this time. God is the witness in all of this, but God is also the questioner and the person who's answering the question. So that is how God is responding. God is giving you the answer by supporting what it is that you've chosen. And you made the choice by showing up today and asking the question. So that's how God shows up. That's how we are given that which we desire, because we've had the desire, we show up for it, showing up in however form you need to, and then what comes back is what we are given by the Creator, by creation. But we are the one that's put it into play. We are the one that's produced it the moment we desired it. So God's job is just to fulfill. But there's no like person like, okay, today I'm going to give her what she asked for. Tomorrow I'm not going to give it to her. No, it's every day God gives you what you ask for. You're just not very good at what you're asking for, because if you are fearful, in worry, in pain, which you're going to, this is the human world. We can't escape that. No matter what, we cannot escape the experience of being human. We can get better at it. We can improve on it. We can teach ourselves ways of being here, going through the experiences, but not necessarily allowing it to consume us. But we'll never stop being human, no matter what we do here. So we're going to go through stuff, no matter what. But we can always expand our prosperity. We can expand our love. We can expand our acceptance of joy. We can expand our ability of creating and giving ourselves happiness. We can expand on those things. God is going to come in and support that, but we have to choose it consistently. If we're not choosing it every day and we're reacting, which is what they just said in the book, we react to stuff, that's where we get into trouble. Says if fear sponsors love and love sponsors according to the polarity of which source created, then love cannot exist without fear. Love is all there is, which means we exist as love under the illusion that is fear, because fear does not exist. Fear is an illusion designed to exist to produce the contrasting experiences within love. In other words, in order for God to become and understand a thing, it has to express and experience and witness through that thing. That thing cannot exist unless it is limited in perspective or form. Fear or lack is a factor that allows for that form to be. In other words, what comes first? The collapsing in to this body, or the pressure against the atomic structure of my body? So have I collapsed in to become this person, this being, this personality in front of you speaking? Have I collapsed into this as God? Have I collapsed into this to be, to experience? Or is the pressure against the being of God, the illusion of fear, which is the pressure, is that what has produced me? That's what I believe. I believe that fear and lack is an illusion, does not exist. We created the illusion that it exists to give ourselves the opportunity to have it create and push us into this form to have this unique perspective. That is what fear is. And that is the ego is a mechanism of fear and of lack. They're not evil. People always want to assume that lack, fear, that it's evil, it's bad, it's wrong. It's a tool. It's a tool. What brings a structure into being if you have nails and a hammer? Is it the parts coming together because they choose to come together? Or is it the hammer and the nail and the pressure banging it all into place so that it forms this structure into? And that's what we've done. We all as source, as God, in individuated form, as pieces of the divine, we all collectively as source being chose for this structure to exist. So we created the illusion of fear and lack, and it forces and pushes into place this physical reality, this matrix reality we all are currently in. So that's why the world exists the way it does. All right, so I think it's going to be my last. I think that's it, y'all. Yeah. Let's see. I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it. All right, guys. I love you all. I will be back next week. So until then, take care.